Good evening, everyone. Today is September 4th, 2019. The 42nd meeting of the 23rd Council will come to order. All councilors are present this evening. Next, we will have a moment of silence led by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilor Harris. Thank you, Councilor. Civic Plaza parking passes are provided for members of the public. You can obtain a parking pass from council staff at the sign-up table. The council will take a break at approximately 7 p.m. this evening if needed. We want tonight's proceedings to be as civil and respectful as possible. Please do not make any personal attacks, and please no applause or other outbursts during the meeting. The meeting will go a lot smoother if we are respectful of one another. We are now on item 3, proclamations and presentations. Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Madam President. I will start this evening with the presentation regarding childhood cancer. So I would ask the firefighters and the chief if you would come down, please. And I just would also mention that I believe that Councilor Winter also has one for the firefighters that is related. So we will have 2 proclamations regarding childhood cancer. Thank you, Chief.
Hi, good evening, Madam President Peña.
I'm going to read the proclamation
Oh, I'm sorry.
first, okay? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and it goes, whereas the 5-year survival rate for childhood cancers has reached 80%. Nearly 2,000 young people under age 19 die each year, making cancer the leading killer of children by disease. Whereas current cancer treatments for adults are toxic to children, generating a need for specialized treatments just for young people. And whereas many childhood cancer survivors in the U.S. suffer from lifelong damage to their organs, mental health, and other effects, making it imperative that we understand how treatments affect children long-term so that late effects can be prevented. And whereas Childhood Cancer Awareness Month spotlights survivorship issues and the need to raise research funds as well as the types of cancer that largely affect children, such as leukemia and sarcomas. And whereas acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the most common cancer in children, now has greater than 80% long-term survival. And whereas efforts to investigate and treat childhood cancer have contributed substantially to the overall understanding of cancer biology for all patients. And whereas it is often difficult to diagnose childhood cancer in its early stages because the signs and symptoms are relatively nonspecific and may mimic a variety of other more common childhood disorders. Thus, cancer awareness should be emphasized to parents and physicians and should consider cancer when a child presents suspicious symptoms. And whereas during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, we acknowledge survivors and pay tribute to the deceased and their families who contributed to the childhood cancer research through their participation in clinical trials. And whereas Albuquerque's Fire Rescue Department Children's Cancer Awareness fundraising efforts go directly to UNM Hospital's pediatric hematology and oncology program, be it proclaimed that the Council, the governing body of the City of Albuquerque, hereby supports research programs and initiatives combating childhood cancer during the month of September and throughout the year. Councilor Winter?
Great, thank you very much. And I think Dr. Coy from UNM Pediatric Oncology and Ariana Martin, if they're here, have them please come down. because I'd like them to, after I go ahead and read this, then we can have everybody talk. So thank you for being here. And we do this every year. Whereas every September, America renews its commitment to curing childhood cancer and offers its support to the brave young children who are fighting this disease, and whereas thousands are diagnosed with pediatric cancer each year, and then more than 100 are from New Mexico, and whereas more than 400 children from Albuquerque are currently being treated or followed by New Mexico's pediatric oncology programs, and whereas childhood cancer remains the leading cause of death by disease for American children under 15 years of age, whereas for those children and their families and in memory of every young person lost to cancer, we unite behind the improved treatment, advanced research, and brighter future for young children. And whereas over the past few decades, great strides have been made in the fight against pediatric cancer, with significant advances in treatment over the last 30 years, the combined 5-year survival rate for children with cancer has increased by more than 20 percentage points. And whereas today a substantial proportion of children diagnosed with cancer can anticipate a time when their illness will be in long-term remission or cured altogether, and whereas all children deserve the chance to dream, discover, and realize their full potential, whereas this month we extend our support to young people fighting for that opportunity, and we recognize all who commit themselves to advancing the journey toward a cancer-free world, be it proclaimed by the Council, the governing body of the City of Albuquerque hereby recognizes that September 2019 is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and encourages all children, all citizens to join in reaffirming the nation's commitment to fighting childhood cancer. And it's just great to see everybody involved in this fight with UNM Hospital and our AFD. So thank you all very much for that, and I'd really like everybody to say a few words, and UNM too. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm the mother of Ariana Martin. We were here last year. She was in her beginning of her 2nd year of treatment. She rang her bell last month, and she's now cancer-free. So I want to thank for your awareness of pediatric cancer. She did undergo 2 years of treatment. It was a very harsh treatment. Her drugs, the main drugs she took first came out in 1953, 2 of them in 1959, and 1 of them in 1963. She will forever have complications because of those drugs and how ancient they are. I know that bringing awareness is the first step in that domino effect to getting more research done. There's only been 10 drugs released for pediatric cancer usage in the last 40 years. And in order to get that ball rolling, it's awareness like this. And if there's anything that we can do, is just continuing to fight to get our city to go gold. You know, there's different cancers, there's different colors ribbons. There's some that are more well-known than the others, but I get asked, what does the gold ribbon represent? And I would just really like to see the Albuquerque city go gold in the month of September, and I appreciate the efforts that are being made now for that.
Hello, I am Ko Boyu. I'm one of the pediatric hematologists, oncologists at the UNM Children's Hospital. And I'll first start by thanking the Chambers and Mr. Winter for giving us these proclamations every year now. I think we're going into the 4th or 5th year of doing this. And prior to that, we didn't have Albuquerque raising awareness for childhood cancer. And I'm just very pleased to see this happening in the Albuquerque Fire and Rescue. Thank you all for partnering with us this year to raise funds for childhood cancer awareness here in New Mexico. The reason we do this is because of what children and families undergo. Once a child is diagnosed, the entire family is impacted. I just want to mention, for example, schooling. You just heard a mom say that Ariana took over 2 years for treatment. During that time, you cannot have no education or instruction. So raising awareness, make it necessary for teachers, legislators to be able to apportion things that are necessary to make certain things available for these children and their families as they go through this experience. And so thank you all again for doing this every year. We really appreciate it.
Chief Dow?
Okay. Good evening, Madam President Pena, Vice President Borrego, and council members. Thank you for having us. My name is David Rettinger. I'm a paramedic driver with Albuquerque Fire Rescue. I work in our Public Affairs Division with AFR PIO Lieutenant Tom Ruiz. Excuse me. Approximately 6 months ago, I was approached by Deputy Chief and Fire Marshal Gene Gallegos to work on a project. Sorry, I'm getting it would benefit children with cancer. We decided to produce a T-shirt that would be worn during September, which is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. IAF Local 244 President Justin Cheney was instrumental in working with us to fund the shirts and also provide the accounts to collect the money. AFR Fire Chief Paul Dow also supported this effort by allowing our members to wear these shirts on duty for the month of September. It was then decided that the proceeds from the shirts would benefit UNM Pediatric Hematology and Oncology Program, who benefits children all over the state. So, we began to work with Esther Lucero, who is a nurse in that clinic, and Esther helped us in our request to add a small piece of artwork on the back from one of the children receiving treatment from the clinic. This is 12-year-old Genesis Torres. She's fighting her own battle with lymphoblastic leukemia. Genesis submitted the fire truck, and we were able to incorporate that in the shirt, which I think gives it a more personal meaning, and we're very thankful for that. So, I also want to thank another young lady who actually has a family member in our fire department, and her name is, excuse me, so let me take a breath. Her name is Taliana Vargas, and she's also battling high-risk stage 4 neuroblastoma, and she was really a big part of my inspiration as well. So I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer. Thank you. On Christmas of 2017. So I think because of that too, it was really close to home for me and touched my heart to really see these kids. So I also want to thank Taliana's parents for sharing their story on social media so that others who are facing these challenges could find encouragement and solidarity. So, you know, these young ladies really help to represent children, all children fighting cancer, while we get to witness what it looks like when innocence is confronted with tragedy. Lives are forever changed, and hope is all you have left. So you don't have to have cancer or any other medical condition to be moved by their stories and their ability to still be kids, even during these difficult times. So it is through their bravery and spirit that Albuquerque Fire Rescue and IAF Local 244 have so far raised about $6,000 for the UNM Pediatric Hematology and Oncology Program, and that number is growing every day with every shirt that we sell. And this success is also owed to every single person that's bought a shirt, and I'm so proud to work with these men and women in the department because they've pretty much bought about 80% of these shirts because they're the most caring and giving people I've ever seen. So thank you, Councilor Borrego, for initiating this, and thank you, Councilor Winters, as well, for championing this cause. Thank you.
Winter.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much for being here. Did you all bring any shirts to sell this evening?
Yeah, of course I did.
Okay, well, everybody buy a shirt. I'd like to buy one too. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Councilor Borrego.
Lieutenant, I just want to say that it was my honor to present this to you. I am a cancer survivor, and right now I have 5 people that are family and friends that are fighting cancer, so it meant a lot to me as well. And I just want you to know, and all the other people that are fighting cancer, that we are behind you. So thank you for being here, and with that, we'll give you your proclamations.
If everyone wants to make their way this way. Thank you. Counselor Borrego, you have another proclamation.
Thank you, Madam President. This proclamation is related to suicide prevention, and it reads, and I believe that there are some individuals here to receive this also, so if you would come down, please. I believe that we have our veterans with us tonight. And while you come down, I just wanted to say I was at the Veterans Memorial this weekend on Labor Day. So thank you all for being here this evening. Whereas mental health is part of overall physical health and emotional well-being, and whereas in the United States, over 40,000 individuals die by suicide every year, and whereas New Mexico ranks 4th in the nation for suicide rates, and on average, at least one person dies by suicide every 19 hours in New Mexico, and whereas suicide is the second leading cause of death in ages 10 to 44, 5th and 7th leading cause of death in ages 45 to 54 and ages 55 to 64, respectively, and 9th leading cause of death overall in New Mexico. And whereas the tragic loss of someone to suicide impacts families, loved ones, and our entire community, regardless of age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, or economic status, the impacts of suicide stress all social systems without discrimination. And whereas public awareness of the warning signs, risk factors, help-seeking behaviors, services, and resources available to at-risk individuals are essential to the state and local communities' abilities to decrease suicide rates. And whereas community-based behavioral health services responding to individual and family needs are cost-effective and beneficial to consumers and communities. Whereas the city of Albuquerque remembers each precious life lost to our community from suicide and wishes to acknowledge the countless family members, friends, and loved ones that are left behind. Whereas state and local partners in observation of suicide as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month offers quality behavioral health resources and services and shares the message that it is always okay to ask for help, and that we as people encourage those struggling with thoughts of suicide and self-harm to reach out to someone they trust and call the National Crisis Hotline 1-800-273-8255 or the New Mexico Crisis and Access Line at 1-855-662-7474. Be it proclaimed that the Council, the governing body of the City of Albuquerque, hereby recognizes September as Suicide Prevention Awareness and Prevention Month. Thank you. Do you have a spokesperson?
Yeah,
And would you
actually,
introduce yourself, please?
my name is B. Chavez. I'm the New Mexico chapter chair for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'm also a national representative for the Loss and Healing Council for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I've been with AFSP for the last 8 years, and I've talked to a lot of you guys before I come in. So I also have the combat vets, and the reason they're here today is because for the last 5 years, we've teamed up as one organization for one cause, and that's for veteran suicide and just suicide in general. This year, we have our Ride to Fight Suicide that the combat vets host for us because we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. And they are heroes in this community when it comes to veteran suicide. So I want to say thank you to them and for everything that they're doing for us and for the community. AFSP is also holding our annual Out of the Darkness Walk, and I would love to see one of you guys there this year again, hopefully. I keep asking, so please come and see how many. In Bernalillo County, we lose 167 people average, and that comes out to about 50,000 people in Bernalillo County that is affected by suicide. And that's in 1 year. That's a lot. That hurts our economy. We're losing our doctors. We're losing a ton of first responders right now. And so I wanted to thank them for what they do, because I continue to get calls at least weekly of losing a first responder in our community. And so we really need, I don't know if you guys know, if somebody goes to a mental health facility here in Albuquerque, most likely they're going to be taken to Mesilla Valley or Peak out of Albuquerque because we don't have any behavioral health beds available. And so as a council, I would love to see more behavioral health beds to talk about this because we have a huge mental health problem here in Albuquerque. Not only do I do this, I work with the homeless. So I see it daily. And so please, let's have some more talks about suicide because it really, really hurts to lose somebody. I lost my dad 10 years and 2 cousins, and it still hurts. So please, let's work as a community. But Flash also wants to talk. Sorry.
Mine is completely unprepared, so please bear with me. Madam President, Madam Vice President, really, thank you very much for this proclamation. The men and women within our organization, we make the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association. We are a nationwide organization. Our credo is vets helping vets. We all served in the military in one shape, form, or another. And upon getting out, we joined this organization because, honestly, we like to ride motorcycles and we like helping our brothers and sisters out. So with that being said, suicide is a #1 issue that we face, especially with the wars that we've had within our generation, as well as within past generations. So in seeing things like this happen, we want to identify those issues and try to prevent them as much as possible. Our organization has been very active within the community, not only in Albuquerque, but throughout the state, down in Las Cruces, Santa Fe, to help fellow veterans, not just in suicide prevention, but also if we see something in the news, a veteran had his ramp taken out by a drunk driver. The very next day, if not that weekend, we all showed up with a few other organizations, and we rebuilt that ramp, rebuilt that veteran's home to bring it back up to speed. Last year, for our run, the event that B. Chavez was just talking about, we raised $7,000. We are a 501c19 organization, so 100% of the proceeds goes to those organizations. We don't take anything. We are here to help the veterans. The city of Albuquerque has been very generous and very helpful with our organization when we want to plan rides to go throughout the city. Albuquerque Police has been very helpful. So again, we want to thank everybody for their support. This year's event will be September 14th. We will have our ride, and again, 100% of the proceeds will be going to the organization that B. Chavez represents, and really with B. Chavez and all of the personnel that work with her, it's our avenue to help the vets, and we really appreciate their efforts. It's huge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Where is that event going to be held at, and what time does it start?
The start of the event is going to be at Indian Motorcycle. We will actually start registration at 9 a.m. And sorry, you can take it out of me, but anyway, it will end at the VFW Post 401, and raffle prizes.
I actually rode in that 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's a good time. It really is.
It's really nice.
Thank you
Would you
again.
like to come forward and get your proclamation, please? Thank you all for being here.
And one more. Mandy. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation recognizing the Albuquerque Post 13 baseball team. So if members of the team and the coaches are here, I have some names: Steve Romero, Roy Jennings, Damian Rody, Javier, let's cut off, Almaguer, and Daniel Gonzalez, assistant coach, Andrew Gonzalez, assistant coach, Eddie Marin, assistant coach, and Debbie Jo Almaguer from Bernalillo County Parks and Rec. Is everyone here? I'll go ahead and get started by reading the proclamation first. So before I do that, I just want to say that the Albuquerque Post 13 was the first New Mexico team to ever qualify and play in the American Legion World Series televised nationwide. So whereas the Albuquerque Post 13 American Legion baseball team was led by head coach Danny Gonzalez, assistant coaches Daniel Gonzalez, Andrew Gonzalez, and Eddie Marin, I want to say, okay. And whereas head coach Danny Gonzalez has coached New Mexico baseball for 31 years, shaping the lives of many players throughout his coaching career. And whereas 13 team members of Albuquerque Post 1, Seth Casillas, Damian Rody, Benito Garcia, Elizar Torres, Javier Serra Almaguer, Roy Lee Jennings IV, Isaiah Gonzalez, Brent Rigtrup, Brandon Bagan, Tyler Wilson, Stephen Romero Marquez, Prince Munoz consider themselves to be more than just a team and refer to themselves affectionately as primos. And whereas team manager Alicia Gonzalez and team bat boy Esteban Marin, parents and supporters of the local baseball, were instrumental in leading the team to the American Legion State Championships with a 20-win, 1-loss record, and won 4 straight games to advance to the Region A American Legion Western Championships held in Fairfield, California. And whereas Albuquerque Post 13 prevailed with great effort, losing the first game and winning 5 more games to prevail as a Region A American Legion Western champions with a 25-2 season, qualifying them into the 100th American Legion World Series held in Shelby, North Carolina. And whereas Albuquerque Post 13 was the first New Mexico team to ever qualify and play in the American Legion World Series televised nationwide on ESPN. And whereas Albuquerque Post 13 competed with honor and integrity amidst the adversity they endured, including stolen uniforms, injuries, emergency room visits, roster protests, and delayed flights. Be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby congratulates the Albuquerque Post 13 American Legion baseball team for their historic win. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate you all having us here. Yeah, this is my 31st year coaching American Legion Baseball. Hundreds of kids have gone through our system. A lot of the kids that nobody wants to coach, we coach them. 99.9% of our kids go on to college. That 1% just decides to go to college but not play baseball. Everybody else gets scholarships, and we're able to do that with the help of American Legion Baseball. This is the 100th year of American Legion Baseball. This is my 31st year coaching, almost retired last year. 3 generations of family members coaching. And it was just a remarkable journey this year with everything that we put together with this group of guys. The reason the guys that we have here today are the guys, the gentlemen that are still, young men that are still in high school. The rest are in college right now, so that's why they couldn't make it today. So we are really proud of what we're able to do and accomplish with American Legion Baseball. The first team ever, this is the 100th year of American Legion Baseball. This is the first team ever for a New Mexico team to ever make it. It's hard for these young men because they're 17 to 19-year-olds, and to go play against California, Hawaii, Arizona, Nevada, to go up against them year after year and losing year after year. But this year, we accomplished that goal, and we won the regional tournament, which was really hard, and then got to Shelby, North Carolina, which we represented with a lot of class. We represented New Mexico with a lot of class. A lot of the college coaches and scouts are there to watch us play and traveled very far. We had parents that drove 24 hours, 26 hours to get there, to go see their kids play. But it's an amazing journey. I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you for acknowledging us. And it's just a great journey. Let me see if anybody else from our... Tom Jury is our state baseball chairman, and I always told him, me and him been at it for 100 years. And I always said it would be a great honor for me and him to be able to at least get to a World Series for him because of the time that he puts in to American Legion Baseball also.
I'm also on the National World Series staff, and it was my pleasure to see these young gentlemen to get off that bus coming from Charlotte Airport, and I could say for once in my life that they were my kids. And I tell you what, they played their heart out. I was very proud of them. I was very proud of our coaches, and they represented New Mexico better than any team there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. If you want to come up and receive your proclamation. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hello, I'm sorry. My name is Paulo Espinosa, and I am the commander of the American Legion Post 13, and it is our honor since 1925 to be sponsoring these kind of youth. American Legion has many, many programs, and this is a small example what we do for youth and getting them scholarships and getting them out of the streets and getting them to the right sources of life. That we are honored about this team. Our team, oh boy, everybody back at home at the Post 13 is honored to give them cahoots when they get back with us this week. So again, thank you for this proclamation from the bottom of our hearts, from these kids. These are the ones that did it for us to put New Mexico on the map in the World Series. About 3,500 teams are out there averagely, and they made it up there. They're one of 8 of them made them out there. And I want to say thank you to all of you. Thanks all for that proclamation. Appreciate it.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Thank you. Come. Well, I don't think you can retire. Next year, you have to go all the way. So next, we have a presentation from Mothers Against Drunk Driving regarding their upcoming awareness event. We have Ms. Reyna and Ms. Valdez here to give us a brief presentation.
Hello, my name is Ashley Reyna. I'm a program specialist for Mothers Against Drunk Driving here in Albuquerque, more affectionately known as MAD. And I wanted to give a brief introduction to our organization, who we are, what we do, and why we do it, and then briefly talk about our upcoming event. So Mothers Against Drunk Driving was founded in 1980 by a woman named Candy Leitner. Candy created MAD because her 13-year-old daughter was hit and killed by a drunk driver, a man who had just been released from his 4th DWI. So she created MAD in order to end drunk driving, help fight drugged driving, to support the victims of these violent crimes, and to prevent underage drinking. At this point in my normal MAD spiel, a lot of people kind of look at me with the so what face. Well, so what? Across the country, every 2 minutes, somebody is impacted by a drunk driving crash. In the state of New Mexico, in 2017 alone, there were 147 alcohol-involved crash deaths. And in 2018, that number jumped up to 154. So what are we doing about it? Here in the state of New Mexico, we have 3 major programs to help in the MAD mission. We have our court monitoring program, where we have employees who are in the courts gathering data on the adjudication of DWI cases. We create an annual report every year, and we put all of our observations and recommendations into a report which we present to the district attorney's offices. We also have our victim advocates. We have 2 advocates here in the state of New Mexico who service the entire state. They like to say that they never close a case because it doesn't matter if it's been 10 days, 10 weeks, or 10 years since a crash. They're always available to help anyone who has been impacted by impaired driving. And then we also have our Victim Impact Panel program. That's our first and second time DWI offender program here in the state of New Mexico. Anyone who has been convicted of a first or second time DWI is required to come to a presentation where they have to listen to the MAD staff talk about Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and then there's a panel of victims who share their story. So today I am here very specifically to talk to you about our Walk Like MAD events. Walk Like MAD is our annual awareness and fundraising event that we have. This year's event is on Saturday, September 28th at 9 a.m. in Tigway Park in Old Town. And we walk for those who no longer can and alongside those who are learning to walk again. We walk with supporters who share our vision and our mission of no more victims. And we walk because together we will end drunk driving. If anyone is interested in MAD, our services, or our events, please feel free to approach me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Next, we have a presentation from Director Montoya, and then I actually wanted to, do you know how long your presentation will be? Because I kind of want to move something around on the agenda, but I wanted to complete this section.
I was asked to be quick, so 5 minutes.
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't I just go on? I'm going to go to a final action item, and then I'll call you up, Pat. Thank you. So I'm going to move now to R19-182, Counselor Jones. And Sanchez, sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. I think, Councilor Sanchez, you're going to introduce?
Yes, we have Mike Reardon here this evening and his children. I know his daughter was going to leave to volleyball practice, so she was wanting to leave fairly quickly, but hopefully, Mike, we can keep her here a little bit longer.
Well, thank you, councilors, Councilor Sanchez, Councilor Jones. Obviously, this bill is very meaningful for our family. This sports complex was one of the last projects we completed under the administration of Mayor Berry, and it's very meaningful to our family. Jennifer was on the field to enjoy that moment with us as we were wrapping up the administration, and you know, Josh and I played catch on those fields before they were even officially opened. I'm not sure if the contractor liked that, but we did it, and just a warm place for all of us. And when we were talking, Councilor Sanchez, and I mentioned that one as a possibility in your district, it was just heartwarming to see your reaction, and then Councilor Jones and my councilors just joining in on sponsoring this bill just means a lot to the family. But what it really means for us as we move forward in the community is Albuquerque, what they've done for us over the last 17 months has been amazing, and we're kind people in this city, and we can become the kindness capital of the world. And for Jennifer, with 3 of us stand up here today carrying her torch of kindness, and we're going to do that. And this is going to go a long way in making the Spark Kindness Complex make Albuquerque the kindness capital of the world. So thank you for your consideration of this.
Thank you, Michael. And we're going to read a little bit here if you guys want to stay up or not. It's up to you.
I think Avery wants to sit down.
Okay, I thought maybe. Thank you.
Before we move on, we have a few people signed up to speak.
Should I move the legislation?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry that we had.
Thank you. R19-182 is renaming the Albuquerque Regional Sports Complex as the Jennifer Reardon Spark Kindness Sports Complex in honor of Jennifer Reardon, a baseball mom, volleyball mom, and a community advocate in the city of Albuquerque, who believed and exhibited being kind, loving, caring, and sharing. Move approval of R19-182.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for a due pass of R182. Before we go on to that, we have a few people signed up to speak. Ms. Geraldine Amato. R19182?
I decline. That was a mistake to sign up.
Okay. Mr. Tad Naminsky?
Thank you. My name is Ted Niemiecki. Name. Being proud of it. I come from farming community. My paternal grandfather had 5 sons named Niemiecki. There were several villages named Niemie, which is my ancestor name came from Niemiecki. Well, now changing names. Well, first, when she came to this office right here, Clarissa Pena, she started renaming everything. Now, Trudy Jones, doing same thing. This is legacy of Michael Jordan, Perry, and Triangle, and Arton Central leaders. He has to have his name. He's put his wife. Who this is, as I understand. Well, who she is. I don't know about her legacy. Vice President, Wells Fargo. Well, what kind? Communication, bring it money, everything about money. So, yes, I know American dream. My pride never, when 14, I lost my pride when my father took me to Warsaw and dropped me over there. But I never lost my heritage, my pride, and so on. I became a contractor shortly when I came to the United States. My time running up, I have no time to enlarge it. I am proud of this country, what I'm at. I can put my name on everything I wanted. But not when it comes to politics, liberal, destroying this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Art Tannenbaum.
Madam President, may I speak after him?
Mr. Art Tannenbaum.
Hi, Councilor Pena, members of the council. With some reluctance, I wanted to speak my mind. I believe it's really important for each and every one of us to stand up and speak out for what we believe. Sometimes things are better left unsaid, but with all due respect, I apologize. I've always thought of heroes as ordinary people doing extraordinary things, not extraordinary people doing ordinary things, nor people who find themselves in extraordinary circumstances doing ordinary things or extraordinary things. And I have a problem with Mike. I've got a problem with Mike and his values. Maybe the less said, the better. I guess it really doesn't matter because, all sorts of things are named after all sorts of different people, and it really doesn't matter. But, no one sold the art scandal to the city more than Mike. No one vouched for the art project more than Mike. Also, in my personal interactions with him, which were relatively sparse, I questioned his values in terms of kindness, loving, sharing, and caring. But I really have no problem with this. I just thought that it's important. I have some questions about the political establishment blurring the lines between community and government and that sort of thing. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Amaro.
Hello. I thought to accentuate the fact that buildings and rooms and so forth being named after people must have something to do with the fact that we're on a coast-to-coast Masonic lodge. The builders. These structures do not really establish anything in behalf of a person. And we put their, people's names on them. It doesn't really make much sense at all when you think about it. And I agree pretty much with the previous speaker had to say. He's a little bit more informed than I on those particular subjects, but it made a lot of sense, his presentation. But this is a tradition in the Masonic Lodge. And unless we start questioning why we're doing these things and what sense does it make, and begin honoring people in a more substantial manner by establishing justice in a meaningful way in this area. Since my car has been stolen, I've been riding on the bus. There are many desperate people in the streets, unhappy and disenfranchised and dispossessed people. And I heard one person from another nation on so-called national public radio say, we don't have any homeless people in our nation. We don't let them stay out there. We take them in. Somebody takes them in. We are treating people like riffraff. At the same time, we're naming buildings in honor of people. There's something perverse about it, and we need to straighten up our act, I think.
Thank you. Councillor Sanchez or Jones?
Thank you, Madam President. This resolution renames the Albuquerque Regional Sports Complex to the Jennifer Reardon Spark Kindness Sports Complex in honor and recognition of Jennifer's love and dedication to the city of Albuquerque. Jennifer always showed acts of kindness, through acts of kindness, her love for her family, her community, and future generations. And she and her family had a passion for baseball and worked with kids. On November 22nd, 2017, the grand opening of the Albuquerque Regional Sports Complex was celebrated with Jennifer Reardon, her husband and former COO, Michael Reardon, and their young son and daughter, and many elected officials and community members of Albuquerque, as well as Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros. On April 19th, 2018, our community lost Jennifer in a tragic accident which affected so many. The Jennifer Reardon Foundation continues Jennifer's spirit to be kind, loving, caring, and sharing, with the goal to make Albuquerque the kindness capital of the world. In order to recognize Jennifer Reardon's belief in being kind, loving, caring, and sharing, the City Council, with great honor, is pleased to rename the Albuquerque Regional Sports Complex, which will now be the Jennifer Reardon Spark Kindness Sports Complex, in honor of the values Jennifer stood for and instilled in her children and many other children and the community members with whom she worked and assisted through her life. We're proud to know her, and many of us are proud to have called her friend.
Councillor Sanchez.
Before I make any comments, I'd like to get some comments from the administration and their position. I did talk to the staff of the administration and Mayor Keller on this issue, and I think they're very proud to be naming this facility after Jennifer Reardon. Ms. Nair?
Yes, Council President Pena, Councilor Sanchez, the administration, on behalf of the mayor and the administration, we are supportive of this change and grateful for council coming up with this idea. I can't think of many things we need more of in this world than kindness. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'd like to close by, I won't close it because I think there's going to be some comments first.
Yes. Councilor Borrego.
I would like to say that I did not have the opportunity to meet Jennifer, and I wished I had. She sounded like a very community-oriented person that gave a lot of her time and efforts, probably aside from her family, to make our community a better place to live. I did have the opportunity, though, to work with Michael Reardon for over 10 years. And Michael and I worked on a number of Albuquerque city projects, and including Albuquerque High and some other projects that have really sort of made a name for themselves in Albuquerque. And I've always found, regardless of politics, I've always found Michael to be a very, his integrity and his dedication to the city of Albuquerque was beyond a lot of, expectations, and I think that that's really important. And tonight is really about Jennifer Reardon and her life and the sort of energy and spirit that she gave to our city. So I'm happy to support this.
Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me first begin by saying that it is an honor for me to be supporting this resolution in naming this baseball complex after Jennifer Reardon. On April 17th of 2018, Mike, Avery, and Josh's life changed forever. And I'm so proud that Mike has never given up what Jennifer believed in, is providing kindness to others. When Jennifer walked into a room, everyone's eyes would light up. And now as she looks down from the heavens at this new baseball complex, I know that everyone there will be kind and working together, because we're going to be playing competitive sports at this new baseball park. But I know that Jennifer loves sports. Her children are involved in sports. Avery was having to leave to a practice, and also Josh. But I feel very compelled to say that I apologize to the Reardon family for what was said just a few minutes ago by some of our speakers, because you didn't know Jennifer Reardon and the individual that she was and the life that she had. I mean, it was cut short because of the Southwest Airlines accident, but I truly believe that her act of kindness on and off the field and with people in general, she used to work with young kids, trying to help young kids that were down and out. And I know there was a comment made about ordinary people. Well, Jennifer was an ordinary person doing some very extraordinary things here in this community. And I believe that we are making the right decision by naming this sports complex after Jennifer Reardon. And I love the word sparks kindness, because that's who she was, and that's what she was all about, was sparking kindness and trying to work with others. And Mike, you did some great work for the city. You were all there that day, your daughter, your son, yourself, and also Jennifer at that baseball complex along with Alex Bregman when they dedicated the sports complex for this community. And I drive out there all the time. It's close to my home. And I see the thousands of people that are enjoying that facility. It's incredible to see what's going on there. And there's no better name than to name that facility the Jennifer Reardon Sparks Kindness Sports Complex. It is now named the Albuquerque Sports Complex, but I believe the citizens that go to that complex are going to be very happy. And I was there at the service for Jennifer Reardon. There was thousands of people in her honor, because that's the kind of person she was. They were there to honor her life. And Mike, you did a wonderful job on that day, as difficult as it was for you. But we are honored today to name this complex after Jennifer Reardon.
So with that, there's a motion and a second for a due pass of R-182. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Be on this podium before, but I do want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This is going to springboard a lot of kindness that we're going to be doing out at that facility. So thank you. All the 9 of you have a special place in my heart for many years down here, and I want to say thank you for tonight. It warms our heart as a family and hopefully as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to go back to Director Montoya. He's going to give a presentation on major city-wide projects. Thanks for your patience.
Madam President and members of the council, I was asked to give a short presentation on some of the projects that DMD is currently working on. Ms. Yada had asked that I sort of highlight those that are the larger projects, and then after the presentation, I'd be happy to provide any answers to questions that you might have, as well as to give you detailed information on any projects that might be in your council district, not tonight, but in written format after this meeting. Let me just start by saying that currently, within DMD, we are managing 76 projects out of our CIP division. We have 6 project managers. Those projects are in each council district. They range anywhere from $500,000 to close to $13 or $14 million. So we run the gamut of projects that we're managing on behalf of the city in each of the council districts that you represent. A total of $213 million is what we're managing as of today just in the CIP division. As many of you know, about 1.5 years ago, we took over management of all biopark projects. So we manage projects at the zoo, at the garden, as well as Tingley Beach. We currently have 2 project managers that manage those projects on behalf of that department. And as you know, those projects are funded out of GRT receipts, an 1/8 of a cent that was passed by this council many years ago, or a couple of years ago. And those are the monies that are used for the projects that we're managing. Currently, we're at $51 million in project management for projects at the biopark. I'll jump into the streets program. We now have in streets, and again, this is not traffic signals or rehab. It's basically major road projects that we're managing, again, throughout the city. We have 7 senior engineers and a total of 42, almost $43 million of projects that we're managing today. Again, in every, or at least in 4 or 5 of the council districts. And then finally, on the storm side, we have 6 senior engineers that manage storm projects, and a total of 7 construction managers that manage projects in that general area, for a total of about 36.2 million in projects that we're currently managing within the storm program. And then this last year, through the legislative process, the 2019 appropriations, $70 million. All of those funds come through the DMD department. And again, they're managed on behalf of, we manage projects for 11 departments within the city. So most of the projects, the bulk of the projects, are actually projects that are owned or being conducted on behalf of one of the other departments. So 11 departments are what we actually manage projects for. I'm just going to mention a few of them, again, sort of the larger projects, and then I'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you might have. I do want to start with Biopark. We're currently in design for the Asia exhibit. That is scheduled to go to construction late 2020. That is a $22 million project with the opportunity to expand to $35 million. So that is going to be one of the larger projects that we're currently undertaking on behalf of the Biopark. And then to complement that is the Australia exhibit. That's in negotiations for design right now. That's about a $12 million project. Under Family and Community Services for Councilor Harris, we do have the Singing Arrow Community Center. We're scheduled to go to construction in March of 2020. That is in the final stages before we get ready to bid that project out. We do have the Westgate Community Center in Councilor Pena's district. Phase 1 is at about $6.5 million. And I know we have a Phase 2 and possibly a Phase 3 for that project. Again, in design, we're looking to go to construction with that one early 2020. And then the Joan Jones Community Center in Councilor Sanchez's district, that's the addition of the gymnasium, roughly $3.2 million, and early spring of 2020 is sort of the time frame that we're hoping for. And I throw these dates out, and many of you have worked with projects within your district, and you know every so often there's just sort of a hitch that's thrown in there, and there's a delay here or a delay there. But we're trying to keep as close to the schedule that we have, because we're trying to get as much money out the door as we possibly can. Respite facility in Councilor Pena's district, that one has gone back and forth for some time. We're finally ready to do the announcement in December, I believe, and go to construction early January or February of 2020. 1.7, North Domingo Baca, which is in construction right now in Councilor Winters' district. We're at 5.2 million with that project there, well underway. I was out there this weekend. The walls are up, the crane is still there, so we're happy about that project as well. And then the Palo Duro Sports and Fitness Edition, that's a $1 million project. That one, we don't have a start date. We're running into just some design issues with the architect. We're hoping to go to construction on that somewhere around April or May of 2020. Let me go real quick. International District Library, that's a $20 million project in Councilor Davis's district. We're in final design right now. We're waiting for the bond election in November. We do have state appropriations plus some old bond proceeds. We should be fully funded and ready to go with that one come the early part of next year. Taylor Ranch Community Center in Councilor Borrego's district, that's an addition to the community room. That is an expansion. That one is underway. That's about $1 million, a little less than that. It'll give that community an additional meeting space. In Councilor Jones' district, a couple of projects, but the one that stands out is the Dwyer substation, $700,000 to $800,000 in rehab for that facility. And then the 6th Area Command in Councilor Borrego's district, and that's another police substation that we're doing a rehab project to. Not expanding or any sort of expansion to it, but it's actually just improving what we currently have there. I'm going to jump down to solid waste. I just want to mention a couple of those. The West Side Maintenance and Office facility, which is out at the landfill, that is, and for many of you that have had this discussion with the COO and others, that actually is a facility that will house all of the vehicles from solid waste on the west side. That's a maintenance facility which would allow trucks to stay on the west side of the river and be maintained instead of having coming into the yards at Edith. And then the big project for solid waste is the admin and the maintenance facility at the Edith location. That project is right at about $38 million. Both of those are at about 70% construction drawings, and we're hoping to go to construction early next year as well. And then the last one that I want to talk to, and then I'll just mention some of the road projects. It's the Regional Transportation Management Center. That's in Councilor Davis's district, Wyoming and Copper. That is a joint project with New Mexico Department of Transportation, the State Police, Bernalillo County. It is a facility that will be a command center for the movement of traffic within the city. It'll allow us to determine where the hot spots are at, to send police vehicles out to those locations. That one is moving along quite well. We're scheduled to be complete September of next year. That was about an 18-month job. Under streets, a few that I just want to highlight, Ladera Drive improvements. We're getting ready to start phase 2, narrowing those medians, leaving the trees in place, sprucing up that area. That's $3.3 million. Paradise Boulevard is underway right now. Those of you that drive through there in the morning, I know Councilor Borrego and I do, we're anxious to get that one completed as well. That's $2.5 million. That's scheduled for April completion, so we're getting close to, and we may be able to shave a few months off of that. They're a little bit ahead of schedule. The big one that everyone seems to be talking about is Rio Grande and Candelaria. We are scheduled to be complete with the roundabout, Councilor Benton, on the 10th of September. We'll have some punch list items. We're hoping to be out mid-September so that we can then start. We'll allow the water utility to go into 12th and Manal. That project is scheduled for us to start in October, but we want the water utility to go in and abandon the lines that are in there now. So we'll have 2 projects in the North Valley, one ending and then one starting. We have a project in Councilor Winters' district with Wyoming Boulevard Extension. And then in the future, we're talking about Paradise and Unser. We still have not secured the 17 and the 22 million. Roughly $45 million for both of those projects. There are ways to go.
You mean Paseo, right?
Yeah, Paseo and Unser, I'm sorry. And I think that's pretty much some of the bigger projects. The last one I do want to mention, it actually is part of Councilor Sanchez and Councilor Pena's district. It's the improvement on the medians on Central from Unser all the way to 118th Street. That project is federally funded, but it's underway, so we're quite happy about that one. So that's sort of a recap. The only other thing I want to mention is that at any given time, and we do work with all of the policy analysts to bring them up to speed so that they can bring you up to speed. But at any given time, if you need, we'll have schematic designs for all of the facilities that we build, and we'll have final designs. So all of the drawings are available to the council members, to the policy analysts, as well as to the general public, if there are any questions about what we're building, where we're building it at, and what the costs are. So with that, I stand for any questions. And again, if there's a project in here that you're extremely involved with or concerned about, if I don't have an answer for you tonight, or just send me an email and we'll get you the specifics. With that, I stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? There seems to be no questions,
Wow.
so thank you.
All right.
Appreciate the update.
All righty.
Next, we have economic development discussion. There is none. Actually, Ms. Jaramillo is going to be presenting next meeting. So we are now on item 5, question and answer period for the administration. Councilors, are there any questions for the administration? Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam President. I have one question regarding rumors that I am hearing that either the city of Albuquerque or UNM is going to stop the bus passes for the free bus rides for UNM students. Is that correct? Or
Council President Pena, Councilor Sanchez, not to my knowledge, we do that via a memorandum of understanding or an intergovernmental agreement where UNM actually does pay some flat fee to the transit department in exchange for providing those passes for their students. So there is no planned interruption from our end.
so do you want to check to make sure with UNM to make sure that's not going to happen? Because like I've heard from several people that they were very concerned that that was going to be stopped. And because of the high cost of parking for these students, this is a great alternative.
Council President Pena, Councilor Sanchez would be happy to confirm that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Gibson, followed by Councilor Winter.
Thank you, Madam President. On that same topic, Madam CAO, we've typically, in past years, my office has been able to supply through transit the some bus passes for high school kids. Typically, it's Del Norte and Title I homeless school project. But and also we've been advocating for Highland this time too. And we understand that somebody in transit, I don't remember who it is, does get those out to APS, but for some reason they're not going to where they need to go. So can you tell us, do you know how they're dispensed to APS? Do they just go to one administrator or one school, or how does that work? No help back there.
Well, I appreciate that, Madam President and Councilor Gibson. I am not quite sure how they get delivered to APS, to be candid about it. We are meeting with the APS on Friday, where we are going to be talking about a variety of city and APS uses. I will make sure I get that answer for you, and we will make sure we follow up for you.
Great. That's encouraging. You know, this is, I would really like for us to consider just giving all school kids who have a card, free passes on the bus, so that we don't have to go through this. I understand that we'd lose some revenue in that, but the gain, I think, is really worth considering. We'd be socializing future generations to using public transit, which is, a good thing. And also it helps support the schools in that, they've been campaigning for every day, you must go to school every day. And that doesn't always happen in households, unfortunately. So, getting kids to school, getting kids to school on time, these are all really important things that that transit can help them do. So I'd appreciate it if you could check into that for me.
Thank you. Councilor Winter.
Thank you, Madam President. I've seen some preliminary numbers, but I wonder if maybe the next meeting we could get some numbers on the economic impact the senior games had I did see some prelim numbers, but I don't know if all the numbers are in yet or not.
Council President Pena, Councilor Winter, we'd be happy to share those. I think some of them rolled out in connection with the Visit ABQ annual meeting last week, but be happy to share those, and we can even talk about them next time if you'd like.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Madam President. About 2 weeks ago was Summerfest West, and my question is, it seemed like we had a lot of city resources, and I'm just wondering how many people were in attendance, if we have an idea.
Madam President and Councilor Borrego, I don't have the number for you. I'll be happy to get it for you, but I will say that because it was a new venue and a venue we had not used before, we really doubled up on our city staff to ensure that the parking and the, with the pedestrian access, et cetera, and the security, not only for the residents of the neighborhood, but also for those attending, was as good as we possibly could make it. And so we did really use a lot more resources, but I'd be happy to get you that information.
I'd be interested in knowing if our city resources were sort of overextended. And I understand it was a new venue. I also had some concerns about the access, which I mentioned to the mayor. And I would like for the administration to consider working with DMD to look at that park and see if there's additional accesses that could be provided in the future, because I think that if that is going to be, and I heard rumblings about a permanent location, if that was to become a permanent location, I think that it would behoove us to look at additional accesses.
Madam President and Councilor, we have looked at that just as a general rule of thumb. We always like to have at least multiple access points from a facility of that size. And so we are looking at that, but we'll be happy to get the information and visit with you as it relates to the use of this.
Thank you. We are now on item 6, the journal. Councilor Borrego.
I move approval of the August 19th journal.
Second.
There's a motion and second for approval. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are now on item 7, communications and introductions. Are there any changes to the letter of introduction? I have Councilor Gibson, Benton, and Davis, R187.
Thank you, Madam President. I will move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing R187 and placing it on the September 16th council agenda for final action. R187 is endorsing the declaration of a climate emergency, creating a climate action plan for the city of Albuquerque, and requesting regional collaboration on a just transition and emergency mobilization effort to restore a safe climate.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing 076 and referring it to the Finance and Government Operation Committee. 076 is amending Chapter 2, Article 6, Part 11 of the revised ordinances of the City of Albuquerque, the Public Safety Tax Advisory Board ordinance, to redefine the composition, roles, and responsibilities of the Public Safety Tax Review Board.
Second.
Just for reference, all these will require 2/3 vote. So there's a motion and a second for 076 that the rules be suspended. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are now, Councilor Davis, 077.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing 077 and referring it to the Finance and Government Operations Committee. 077 authorizes the issuance and sale of City of Albuquerque, New Mexico tax refunding and improvement revenue bonds in 2 series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $47 million, to include gross receipts tax, lodgers tax refunding and improvement revenue bond series 2019A and gross receipts tax refunding revenue bond series 2019B.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Counselor Benton and Pena, I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing R-189 and referring it to the Finance and Government Operations Committee. R-189 is amending the composition of the Board of Housing Commissioners for the Albuquerque Housing Authority.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next item is I move the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing 078 and referring it to the Environmental Planning Commission. 078 is amending the 1416-2-6-2E of the Integrated Development Ordinance to add 2 at-large members to the Environmental Planning Commission. I move approval, I move, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion passes on an 8-1? 8-2.
7-2.
7-2, I'm sorry.
Unless we're back to 11.
Next, Counselor Benton, I'll let you do this one, R-190.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll move that rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing R-190 and referring it to the Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee. R-190 is establishing a process for the City Council to consider readoption of goals and policies of sector development plans listed in Appendix D of the comp plan until the first community planning area assessment cycle is complete and the comprehensive plan is updated.
I'll second that. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
No.
Is that 1 or 2? 1? 8-1. That motion passes on an 8-1. So Counselor Benton, R-191.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing R-191 and referring it to the Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee. R-191 is establishing a process for the City Council to consider reenactment of the sector development plans listed in Appendix D of the comprehensive plan, including the regulatory aspects of the plans.
Second. So there's Counselor Sanchez?
Thank you. I have one question. When you state reenactment, are you saying we're going to do away with the IDO by reenacting the sector plans? Or are we going to keep the IDO in place and incorporate more amendments to the?
Yeah, the intention is not to replace the IDO in any way, but rather to, on a provisional basis and certain, with restrictions, that the sector plans could be listed and be more robustly included within the plan, but I'll defer to the administration as well.
Madam President and Councilor Sanchez, I think Councilor Benton described exactly what we're looking at, is looking at the adoption or the incorporation, I would use, of these sector plans into the existing IDO.
Right now, we are looking at amendments to put into the IDO for some corrections. Can we not look at amending some of those plans back in to the IDO without going back and basically, because I mean, the words really concern me here when you state that reenactment of the sector plans, because we've already passed the IDO, and my biggest concern is what kind of lawsuits are we going to be looking at when developers have already, put their applications in for development with the current IDO. I do support a lot of stuff that was left out, but that could be done through amendments.
Madam President and Councilor Sanchez, in fact, if that is the course that the council wants to take during the conversations as we looked at these bills, we'd be happy to have that conversation. That's our intent, is to ensure that we have included as many of those sector plan issues, if you will, into the IDO.
Thank you.
Counselor, I think it was Gibson and then Winter. No? Counselor Winter?
Thank you, Madam President. And so what basically we're putting this is going to be a discussion, to start a discussion, and not necessarily swapping the plans, the sector plans for the IDO, correct?
Madam President, if I could.
Counselor Benton, sorry.
If I could respond, yes, this would be establishing a process. So this isn't adopting these plans. This isn't doing anything other than directing a process where they could be looked at in more detail. We need to keep in mind that the comprehensive plan and the IDO process included this process for community planning areas. So this does anticipate doing this kind of work through that process.
Councilor Winter.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Sanchez, I'm kind of thinking the same way you are. I think that some things could be changed. It's what the process is that we're going to do to make those changes. Thank you.
Councilor Borrego.
So I don't know who to ask this question to, but I need some kind of an answer. So my understanding is with the IDO, we had community assessment areas that are coming within 5 years. And within that process of developing community assessment areas, we would be looking at the sector plans and the IDO and so in my mind, I guess, there was already a process established. And so now I'm sorry, Councilor Benton and Councilor Pena, but I have not read this bill. And so we're saying that we're establishing another process? I'm a little confused, so somebody needs to clarify that.
Madam President and Councilor Borrego, no, what we're saying is exactly what you have described, and that is just ensuring that through this legislation, that we clearly have a conversation about incorporating as much of those sector plans into the IDO as possible. And it was the administration's perspective that having these bills in front of the council for conversation and consideration, ultimately, obviously, it's a opportunity for all of us to talk about those and see how we incorporate them in a way that makes sense.
But I thought the whole purpose of the IDO was to create a streamlined process with regard to zoning, and now we're looking at sector plans and bringing some of that zoning back. There's two completely different types of zoning. There's traditional zoning and there's form-based zoning. So, I mean, is that what the process would be, is to determine what we're missing?
Councilor Benton.
I'll take a stab at it, and then the administration might want to elaborate. But essentially, as part of the community planning process, I think we would clearly, in any planning process of the type that was long anticipated within the IDO, these community issues would be the basis for the conversations within the community planning process regardless. So I can bet you $1 to a donut that at the first community planning area process meeting, people are going to bring forth concerns that have been historically in some of these sector plans. Now, the sector plans, I absolutely stand by what Councilor Jones and I sponsored, which was that we had a system that was super unwieldy, and that there wasn't really a problem so much with the content of those plans. It was that very hodgepodge system from which really only roughly half of the city even benefited from having a sector plan and had the luxury of having special zoning just for their one area. So I think that would naturally be part of the community planning area process regardless. This body, as the ultimate land use authority, can amend the IDO and these regulations at will. Of course, we are going typically through the Planning Commission to consider them, and this does anticipate a continuation of the process that was laid out under the IDO.
And Councilor, with all due respect, I tried to slow this process down a little bit when I got on the council, just for this reason, because I felt like we still needed a little bit of work. And it seems like now we're just trying to put a Band-Aid on things that were not fixed. So that's just a comment.
Councilor Benton.
If I may comment in response. Yeah, without question, another aspect of the IDO is that it recognizes that it was a major change of format from an old format of the old code, started in 1959, to a modern format, but it did not purport to correct every issue that we might know that exists within that old code. The effort of converting to a new system was monumental enough without fixing everything that might have been wrong with some of those older zoning regulations within the basic zoning code, or even within some of the older sector plans, which were actually dated back to 1979 and 80. So what the IDO did was establish a process going forward to continue to regularly update the plan and regularly have communications in the community with geographically sensitive issues within those communities that was prior addressed within sector plans. So.
Councillor Davis.
Madam President, thank you. And I just want to point out, I think this is a really important conversation and precisely the reason I think the councilor is introducing this. But the question before us is simply whether we suspend the rules and assign it to a committee where we should have this conversation with the public. I'm not in favor of one side or the other here, but I think we ought to, I think we'd better use our time to sort of just decide whether we're doing that tonight or whether we wait 2 more weeks and send it to committee by process, and then we can have that discussion.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't think 2 weeks is enough to wait. I think we should wait indefinitely. I mean, I think we had, according to our consultants that came to the city, we had the worst zoning in the country. And I view this as trying to return to that horrible zoning. What we already have not followed the advice of our consultants, and our appeal fees and all that stuff are way too low. We have all this parochial concerns every time someone wants to build something in the city, as it is. And this would just make it worse. So we had an opportunity with the IDO to make it harder for people to interfere with property rights with all these neighborhoods who can just spend $50 and hold up $1 million project, which is too bad as it is. But then we're going to add another overlay. I think that we should just steer so clear of that. What I've heard from the planning department and developers is that the planning department has not figured out the IDO yet. And I think we need to do that first, and then we can start maybe adding little sidecars here and there if we have to. But I think we need to figure out what the IDO does and how to make it work and how to actually implement it, and not be spending time with the planning department, with this council, figuring out ways to actually tinker with the IDO in ways that makes it more parochial and interferes with property rights in a way that's going to harm economic development. So I can't vote for any part of this ever.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Harris, thank you. This is one of those things that I think we're trying to fast track for some reason that I can't really understand. The process is in place to do this. Most people, when they have an issue with any kind of a development or plans that go before the city council, they have the right, or before in the planning department, they have a right to appeal. They come to the city council, we hear them, they go to a couple of hearing officers. There's a great process in place, and to revert something that we think is going to work, but we still have some glitches in it, to something that we know didn't work is probably not the sign of the most brilliant people in the world. So I'm thinking maybe we better sit back, try to fix what we have. If it doesn't work, there's a long process. There is no reason to jump into this and say we must fast track it and do right now when we don't even know what it is that we want to do, other than we don't want to do kind of what maybe we're doing, that some people liked it better the other way and some people didn't. This is not the way to do good government. We need to take a long, fast look at it and look at what the real problems are, and I'm adamantly opposed to fast-tracking this for whatever reason we're trying to do that.
Councillor Winter.
One last question. I know that this is to immediately. What's the process if we vote no on this? What's the timeline?
I would have to direct that to Steph.
Madam President, councilors, the motion on the floor is to suspend the rules for introduction and referral to LUPS, and which requires 6 votes. If we don't get 6 votes, then the sponsors could opt to introduce this bill at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you. Answer your question, Councillor Winter. So, yeah, I just kind of, because I am a sponsor on this bill, I just wanted to say a couple of words, is that this is just for introduction so that we can have that discussion, and once it goes to the LUPS, you know, that's where we will decide whether this is something that's going to be feasible moving forward, or we make amendments, or we don't do it at all. I think any one of us councilors have the ability to introduce this, so it can be now or later. It doesn't, I guess it really doesn't matter, but I know that in terms of the time frame for this year's IDO, I think it would be more prudent for us to do it now rather than later, but that's the will of the council. So with that, there was a second, motion and a second for the rules to be suspended for the purpose of putting R 199 and referring it to the land use. All those in favor say yes. Opposed, no? No. So motion fails. And we will move on to, I guess, introducing it later. So anyway, same discussion, different day. Councilor Borrego.
I move approval of the letter of introduction.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are now on item 8, reports of the committee. There are none. Deferrals and withdrawals. Councilors, are there any referrals or withdrawals at this time? I have one. I'd like a 30-day deferral on R-178. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second for a deferral of R-178. All those in favor say yes.
Madam President, what is R-178, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. R-178 is it's amending the adopted capital implementation program for the city of Albuquerque, supplementing current appropriations for the Arenal Crestview Bluff open space land acquisition. So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Madam President, I'm sorry to interrupt. We had a couple of public commenters signed
Oh,
up for
did
the
we?
bill.
I'm sorry.
If you
Yes.
want to hear them right now, that would be appropriate.
Okay, sure.
The first gentleman is Michael Jensen, and then Ken Murphy is the second speaker.
Ken Murphy.
So if Mr. Jensen could come up.
Council President Pena and councilors. I served on the Open Space Advisory Board for 5 years. I termed out a few days ago at the end of August. We heard the Crestview Bluff issue at our last meeting last week and voted unanimously to recommend to you all that it not be approved. There are a number of reasons. We applaud Councilor Pena for wanting to do something good in her neighborhood. But one of the Open Space Advisory Board members who's been working on this for a long time on her own, separate from the Open Space Advisory Board, said that she herself was caught off guard by this because her belief was that this was going to be a park and not open space. So there's that issue. This was never brought to us for discussion to advise the council. That's something that the Open Space Advisory Board is supposed to do, advise the council on purchase and sale and exchange of open space lands. And we find it an extremely bad precedent to bypass that process. There's also a language in this saying that there are unencumbered funds in open space. That is simply not true. We have such a huge backlog of uncompleted maintenance and repair and improvements, and we have a number of parcels of land out there that we are actively negotiating on that will consume the $3 million that this resolution says the open space will still have. One parcel in the southwest is south and southeast of the Walmart on Coors and Rio Bravo, and the family that owns that 315 acres is selling it. And thanks.
Since the speaker has served on our boards, if he could just complete it briefly, please.
The owners of that land are willing to negotiate with the county to sell 147 of it to the county. That property, the 147 acres, will cost between $5 and $6 million, and the county will put in 2+, and they're asking the city for 3+. They came to us and talked about this. That would be an amazing thing for the Southwest, to have 147 acres that will go to support farming for the Grow the Growers program when they graduate, open space, trails, and all that sort of stuff. So,
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam President. So I need clarification. I believe we just took a vote. It happened pretty quickly, but did we just pass, what was it, R-178?
No, there
Oh,
was.
not, I'm sorry, not 178. What? No, I don't even see it on here. What was the vote?
There was no
Please.
vote.
Okay.
So
Before
we're
the
on public
speaker?
speakers
Yeah,
now.
Madam President, Councillor Gibson, so the vote previous to the speakers was to defer this item for 30 days for council action.
But we haven't taken a vote, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
you
have
did
another
take a vote
speaker?
for deferral, so yeah. Yes, and the next speaker signed up is Mr. Kim Murphy.
Mr. Ken Murphy? Jim Murphy?
He's not here, so I
He-
guess we're done.
He's left, okay. So we did vote on the deferral
Yes,
already?
the deferral
Okay.
passed.
So with that, we will be hearing it in a couple of, in 30 days. So, no, we did vote. She said we did vote. So now we are on item 9, the consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? For the individuals on tonight's consent agenda who are being appointed to serve on a board or commission, would you please stand if you're in the audience? I think there's a few people on our agenda this evening, but we have one gentleman here in the back. So we just really, on behalf of the City Council, we want to thank you for your willingness to serve. So thank you. Councilor Borrego.
Madam President, and I know this is, can I ask a question about the consent agenda? About one of the items? Or is that?
We're done.
We're done?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I guess I can't ask my question then. I move approval of the consent agenda.
There's a motion, a second for approval. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are now on general public comments. There will be a 2-minute time limit. The light on the podium will be green for the first minute and a half, then the light will turn yellow and the bell will ring, indicating you have 30 seconds remaining to wrap up your comments. At 2 minutes, the light will turn red and ring to indicate that your time is up. And we have our first speaker this evening, Mr. Don Schrader, followed by Pete Reiser, followed by Geraldine Amato. And if you guys can make your way to the front, I would appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
No salary on earth is worth selling your brain and your conscience to design nuclear bombs at Sandia Weapons Lab. U.S. nuclear bombs prepare to murder far more moms, dads, and kids than all the wars of human history combined. U.S. nuclear bombs prepare to murder many times more moms, dads, and kids than Hitler and the Nazis killed in gas ovens, concentration camps, and World War II. U.S. nuclear bombs prepare to murder far more people than all the street gangs, drunk drivers, drug cartels, school shooters, violent spouses, serial killers, ISIS, Ku Klux Klan, and Mafia combined murder. Is this treating other people as we want to be treated? Is this loving our neighbors as we love ourselves? Is this doing good to our enemies? The United States is the only nation ever to atom bomb cities of people. Why would any community leader be proud of Sandia Weapons Lab? Why would anyone with conscience work at Sandia Weapons Lab? A life-giving job at minimum wage is infinitely better than a mass murder job at Sandia Weapons Lab. For 40 years, I have paid no federal income tax, not one bloody penny, for U.S. nuclear bombs and U.S. wars.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
Pete Reeser. I'm representing the Irving Residence Committee because I believe Councilor Borrego is going to propose an extension to the moratorium on construction on Irving Boulevard, and we wholeheartedly support that. And I would point out that such a moratorium has been in effect for 2 years, and the opportunity actually to discuss the problems that became evident didn't happen in those 2 years. Maybe we can start discussing them now. Thank you.
Thank you. Geraldine Amato, followed by Mike Alvarez, followed by Alan Reed.
Good evening. Until Shiloh come, we need to do more to oppose treachery, resist depravity. If we can engage our own minds to do our own evaluation, our own thinking as to what we actually perceive and see, it may be we can prevent the totalitarian genocidal disaster planned for us. A pattern of genocide by U.S. federal agents of refugees coming across the southern border, a persecution of mostly genuine Christians by double-cross fake Christians. The Jews' PFO document that the greatest mass murderers are governments, preceded by confiscation of people's guns and gun control. The Walmart logo, the Mason Square and Compass, the six-pointed star of the Israeli regime is the same symbol, differently depicted. My incarceration in the Lovelace hospitals for 1 month taught me that there are saints and scoundrels in hospital operations. The scoundrels control. I almost died twice from pneumonia and the complications thereof, and was almost killed twice by the treachery of staff. And since I survived, I was diagnosed off the cuff by a non-psychiatrist, MDT commando named Cesar Ramos, as homicidal. I believe we need an armed rebellion in the spirit of the American Revolution. But Commando Ramos would have me languishing in some psycho ward. I barely escaped on May 10th from Ramos's intrigue. We have this crisis intervention team, and APD squad is attached to it, and they strong-arm, under doctor's orders, political dissidents into psycho wards, and you'll never see them again. We have people languishing in psycho wards because they dare to speak out. And we need to stop this type of treachery. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez.
How you doing, folks? I had my speech already made up, but there's a lot of things that I listened to tonight that changed my mind. I've heard all the millions of dollars that you folks are going to be spending to develop the city projects that you have in mind. But what are you going to do to build up the projects around the city? More stores are closing their doors. More people are losing their business. Ever since the art project started, that there was going to be the art project that never developed, that was a no-brainer, and a lot of people lost their business. Now we're going to be losing a lot more business. Walmart, Walgreens, Albertsons, General Mills is going to be closing their doors. Some of the banks are going to be closing, and nobody even bothers to even try to bring other businesses into this town. Every day that I go here or there, I see more empty buildings and more businesses closing, and it seems like if somebody doesn't open their eyes to develop more things here in this town, it's going to be a ghost town. I already feel it. And I'm not talking just to talk. I keep on getting news on my phone that a lot of businesses here in town are going to be closing. If you don't believe me, investigate it. Walgreens is going to close 120 stores by the end of the month. Albertsons is already closing stores in Albuquerque and Denver and Arizona. Walmart is starting to close their stores also. There's a Walmart store here in Albuquerque that's going to sell all their products at half price because they can't afford the overhead. And nobody's even talking about trying to investigate to see what's going on in town. We've got more traffic in this town, and it's taking longer time to get from A to B. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez, and stay tuned at our next council meeting. Our director, Cynthia Jaramillo, is going to kind of give an update in terms of economic development projects that have already started and are ongoing. So Mr. Alan Reed, followed by Harry Relkin. I think Mr. Reed left. Harry. Adam Lopez. Followed by Twyla McComb, followed by Tad Naminsky, and then our final speaker will be Mr. Art Tannenbaum. Yes, Adam.
Honorable Council, it is my pleasure and my great honor to present before you the Christmas cantata that will be coming to the Tingling Coliseum on October 4th. And I believe that this performance will bring light and happiness and connect us to the heart that will combat what has happened in Midland, Odessa, and El Paso. And this is going around the United States, 29 different cities. So please be a part of it. Please come to it. It is a free concert for everybody. And we are asking you to support it by inviting people and also donating. Thank you.
Christmas Cantata is a musical concert that will see a handful of Christmas performances, including the world-renowned Gracias Choir.
Joined now by Mark Lee and Luis Suarez with the International Youth Fellowship. They're here to talk about the upcoming Christmas Cantata.
Gracias, Nurma, y volvemos contigo más adelante, pero como decías, con la llegada de la nieve también llegan otra serie de actividades, las fiestas de Navidad.
3X. The nativity scene. The family scene. This is Tingling Coliseum last year. And the opera, which will be followed by a full course orchestra. Thank you, Council, and please just be aware that we'll be in your city October 4th, 7 p.m. at the Tingling Coliseum. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Twyla McComb.
Good evening, Councilor President and councilors. My name is Twyla McComb, and I'm here representing the Crestview Bluff Neighbors Association. And I'm speaking in favor of a resolution that you guys are going to be speaking about, I guess, for the next 30 days, R-19-178. Our neighborhood was founded by a native New Mexican veteran on a land grant issued by a Spanish governor. It's been named Atrisco since 1692. That's a full 8 years prior to Old Town being settled. Our neighborhood is the center of many cultures, Native American, Spanish, Mexican, and Anglo. Today, the Southwest population represents a full 1/5 of the city's metro area. We are an average of 34 years old. We have above average income to other New Mexicans. And 69% of our citizens own homes. But yet we are consistently left out when it comes to funding for basic things, such as sidewalks and streetlights and recreation and parks. Last night, I took a look at city maps, which, by the way, it's almost impossible to see how many parks you really have in your neighborhood. However, I counted the green specks between Central and Gun Club and Coors and the River. I counted less than 15 parks in that entire neighborhood, yet there's 3,900 of us per square mile. We are asking for the city to help us to help fund the purchase of land on Crestview Bluff. We believe this could be a jewel of the city, and for those of you who haven't visited, we would hope that you sometime would. We care about this project. It's important to us, and we've worked on it for 20 years. We've raised the bulk of the money necessary to purchase this land, and we're asking you to agree to help us purchase just a fraction of it. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Tad Naminsky?
Thank you. My name Ted Naminsky again. Let me just finish up what I just spoke prior. Well, I know Michael Jordan very, very well. He was sweating when it came to that is payoff for Arton Central. Well, two leaders are standing right here, Benton and Sanchez. Well, that was exactly not Jennifer. And don't apologize. You're all cowards. You are Michael's cowards. You are a liar, manipulator. That all has to do with money. That's what you do. You don't care for poor people. Poor people. Why we have so many homeless people? Now, never less. So that's how you're destroying your taxes, increasing taxes, destroying. I'm just tired with this city. I love 1969 when I came. That was beautiful, small city. Not anymore. What's going on? You all leftists destroying. Well, Peña, Democrat, from corporate world, YDI. Now, Jones, Republican, corporate world, private, filthy rich. How much they care? Come on, give me a break. Let people know who they are and for who they care. They care for own pocket. Sanchez, he apologized for those three speakers. You care for your businesses, and you bringing business people to your businesses from all the way around, sitting right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Art Tanema, our final speaker this evening.
Regarding your transit department and the ongoing non-compliance with the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, it's not as though they didn't do anything. I mean, they must have had to take some doing to make all the unfulfilled promises. It must have taken a certain amount of effort to string people along for 20 or 30 years, folks in the National Federation of the Blind and the New Mexico Commission for the Blind. And it must have taken a certain amount of determination to give people like Martin Heinrich the runaround for 15 years. Former United States Transportation Secretary Norma Mineta wrote a letter about 15 years ago about your noncompliance with the bus stop announcements. 2 other United States Transportation Secretaries have written about it, 4 members of Congress. This is primarily a safety issue, and it's also a civil rights issue. It's been neglected at best. Severe neglect is a form of abuse. After all this time, the Transit Department's response is consistently contradictory. On the one hand, they'll say things that would indicate, oh, well, this is not really a big deal, to cast doubt over whether invested stakeholders' allegations of the problem being severe or not so severe. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. On the other hand, they'll say, well, this simple task is a lot more complicated than you would think. But after all this time, there are only 2 possible explanations. It's either sheer incompetence or severe neglect. There is a third possibility. Flagrant defiance. This is a matter of complying with the law. It's also a matter of doing the right thing, and it is a safety issue. Please resolve it.
Thank you, Mr. Tannenbaum. We're on item 11, announcements. Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. There will be a Finance and Government Operations Committee meeting on Monday, September 9th at 5 p.m. in the Council Committee Room on the 9th floor.
Councilor Benton.
There will be a Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee meeting on Wednesday, September 11th at 5 p.m. in the Council Committee Room on the 9th floor.
Thank you. Item 12, public hearings, there are none. Item 13, approvals. Councilor Harris, EC 436.
Thank you, Madam President. And this is an EC. The DRB recommended that this not be approved, but they also, in the write-up, it says that they would like a traffic study. And there's also a lot of, misunderstanding in this, and there's some confusion that APS has added to the mix by apparently encouraging people to drive through this neighborhood and drop the kids off at what is really just a walkway for the neighborhood to walk to school. It's not a place for, it's not really a school entrance. And the DRB seemed to be encouraging the kind of cut through traffic in this neighborhood that we're trying to address with this vacation. So, but the write-up does suggest that there could be a traffic study which would help suggest, maybe justifying this or alternatives. So I'd like to defer this for 60 days and in the meantime, see if we can come up with a traffic study or a scope for one at least. EC 436, number, and
Mr.
13.
Melendez, did you have a comment on that?
Madam President, I do not. I mean, I think that's an option to defer. Remand to the DRB would be another one in the event that they do have more information that you would like for them to consider.
What, defer? Defer for 60 days, that works, Mr. Melendez?
Madam President, Councilor Harris, that does work. It sounds like we're going to get some more information for the council to consider in the event that that information, if you'd like the DRB to ultimately review that information at some point, you would still have the opportunity to remand it to them for that purpose if you so choose.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a motion, a second for a deferral for 60 days. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
And one more thing, Madam President. Mr. Melendez, can you get me a scope of a traffic study and help me find funding for it?
Madam President, Councilor Harris will work with council staff to get that done.
Okay, thank you.
We are now on item 14, final actions. There are just a few items. It's a will of the council. Do you want to go ahead and take a break or just go through these? You want to just go through them? Okay. Majority. Didn't look like Jones, but. So we are on item 14, final actions. Councilor Benton, 052.
Thank you, Madam President. 052 is amending the Integrated Development Ordinance, Section 1416.35J3, Old Town Historic Preservation Overlay. 5, other development standards to allow increased types and amount of signage in Old Town and to incorporate outdoor display and demonstration into Old Town HPO 5, and amending Section 13.321 Old Town Solicitations Ordinance to replace all references to the H1 Historic Old Town Zone with Old Town HPO 5. I move it do pass.
There's a
And-
motion and a second for it to pass. Counselor Benton.
Thank you. And Counselor, thank you, Madam President. And Counselors, the amendments labeled B and C in your iPad, I'm going to move those. The amendment labeled B would be a floor amendment number 1, which I'll move. Can I just read the explanation, or do I need to read this? Okay. I'll read the explanation, and then if anybody has questions. Shanna Schultz is here. She's worked diligently on this. What this does is in the Old Town HPO 5, there are some use regulations that are specific to the area rather than to the underlying zone category. For example, bars and nightclubs are prohibited and restaurants are permissive no matter the underlying mixed-use zone. Most of the Old Town HPO-5 is zone MXT. Outside of Old Town, the tap room or tasting room use is conditional in the MXT zone. A tap room or tasting room is defined in the IDO, and I don't think I need to go in that it's pretty much associated with a local brewery, winery, or distillery under an approved small brewer's license or an approved wine grower's license. And these are New Mexico businesses only can qualify for this. At present, within the Old Town HPO 5, a tap room or tasting room must be accessory to a restaurant. This amendment would allow a tap room or tasting room that is accessory to a restaurant as a permissive use, but also would allow a tap room or tasting room as a conditional use if it is not accessory to a restaurant. This revision would not change the prohibition on bars or nightclubs.
So there's a motion and a second for floor amendment labeled B will now become amendment number 1.
Madam President, just before we vote on these amendments, I don't, do we have folks signed up to speak?
I don't have anyone.
If
Do we?
not, okay, I just want to, there's some people in the audience that did, and they may be signed up to speak on this specific amendment, so if they desire, Madam President, I'd
Yeah.
like to hear them.
Did you all sign up to speak? No?
Okay. I do think those people that were waving at us, though, are
But
are
you
in
do want to
favor of
speak.
this,
You didn't
if I
sign
can
up, but
speak
you
on
do
their-
want to speak.
Some of them have
So-
spoken in the past, and certainly people with an interest in this, but, okay, I just want, sorry for the interruption.
So do we
Madam
want to
Chair.
do the amendments first and then have the public comment, or do you want to? What do you want to do, Counselor?
I would prefer if we could go ahead and hear public comment and then vote on the amendments.
Okay, so public speaker number 1, if you'd come to the podium and state your name.
My name is Christopher Goblet. I am the Executive Director of New Mexico Wine Growers Association, and I apologize for not signing up in advance. Here to speak just quickly about the concept of a wine tasting room in Old Town, and specifically in 1890 there were 10 wineries that were based out of Old Town. So we are in the process as a nonprofit of trying to build the profile and build the industry, and we have a number of wineries who are interested in the Old Town area in specific. And because it dovetails very closely to our history of the industry, but also our industry kind of mirrors the patterns that you see of business in the Old Town area. Our wineries are not looking, as Councilor Benton said, to open bars or nightclubs. We are looking to open tasting rooms where the intended use is to sell package, to be able to sell a case of wine. To do so, we will do tastings, we will offer by the glass, but our hours of operation will mirror those businesses in the industry, in the district. We would typically open by 11 and close by 7 p.m. unless there was a special event that we would want to participate in. We see this as a great way for us to work both in the areas of economic development and tourism, but as we move towards our 400th anniversary of New Mexico Wine in 2029, we are launching in 2019 our 10-year strategic plan to build the profile of this industry. And to do so, we really need to have a destination to invite out-of-state guests to come experience New Mexico wine. And we believe that Old Town provides that perfect gateway, that opportunity for folks coming off the airport, grabbing their bags to see that sign that says Old Town New Wine, to come experience the history, the culture that we have to offer, and then use that as an opportunity to distribute these folks throughout the state to different wineries that are in more rural regions, whereas breweries are typically here in the inner city, in the towns. We are typically rural and agrarian, and we believe that this opportunity for us to open a few of our tasting rooms would help build the profile of the industry. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean Sheehan, one of our local winemakers and a board member.
Councillor Harris. There's a
I guess
question
the
from-
person's, did you say you will be selling glasses of wine or not?
So the concept of the tasting room would be for folks to come in and they could do a flight to sample varieties of wine.
Okay.
They could purchase by the glass.
Okay.
But the issue that we're trying to alleviate here is the fact that in order for us to be successful and have a functional business, the package component has to accompany it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough revenue generated from the sales of just glasses of wine. And that's how we differ a little bit from the craft beer industry, which is more of a consumption on site. Maybe you take a growler or a six-pack home. But for us, really, we want to be filling cases of wine, shipping them back to wherever our visitors are coming from across the country, across the world.
Okay.
And that package sales is the key component
Okay, good.
to that.
No, I thought you said they won't be selling glasses of wine. I thought that was unusual. Okay. I'm glad I cleared that up. Thanks.
Pardon
Okay.
Councillor Borrego.
Sir, so with regard to existing liquor establishments that are in Old Town, and I guess this amendment, and maybe this is for Councillor Benton, this amendment actually is for new taste rooms, or whatever you call it, I guess. So how does this impact existing liquor establishments?
So New Mexico wineries are currently allowed to serve at their establishments wines that they have produced and beers produced by different New Mexico breweries. Same goes for the antithesis. The opposite goes for breweries. They can serve the wine. We've met with a number of the downtown, of the Old Town liquor license holders who see themselves as not being impinged upon this or affected in a negative way. A lot of them focus on, again, margaritas, mixed drinks, as well as beer and wine. So we feel that this product that we're bringing to Old Town would work in symbiosis with the art galleries and the other cultural businesses there and not take away from those restaurants who do have full liquor licenses. With, again, the focus being on the sale of package.
Does your, I guess, type of business have to go through the same sort of requirements that a full liquor establishment would have to go through with regard to the state?
And I apologize for not using my decorum. Councilwoman Borrego, we would go through the same policies and procedures that any liquor license holder would go through with alcohol and gaming, with the posting of a license, notification, and then a hearing that would then allow for both the city and the state to approve on that license. It would require 300 feet from a church. We would need to have those same approvals that any liquor license would have to have.
Councillor Sanchez.
Thank you. I think this question is probably more for the sponsor. What is the position of the Old Town Merchants?
I don't know that they've taken a position, but they have not opposed it. But perhaps Marie Coleman is here. Were you planning to speak, or could you? Right. Understood. So, understood. Yeah. So I think the answer is there hasn't been a formal position taken for or against.
Could I ask some point of clarification?
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, so, okay, thank you, sir. So our next public.
Before we move on,
Oh.
so basically, the Old Town Merchants Association has not taken a position?
That's correct.
Was that brought up before this committee to discuss this issue?
Before which committee?
The Old Town Merchants Association?
Okay, we'll get to you.
Yeah, I think it'd be better to hear from
better. So I think we just need to go
folks that are here
through
to advocate.
our public comment. So, Mr. Sheehan, from my neck of the woods.
Well, thank you very much for hearing me, and I apologize as well for not signing up. My name's Sean Sheehan. I'm the owner and winemaker for Sheehan Winery, located in the South Valley of Albuquerque. It is with great excitement and hope that we put forth to you the idea of tasting rooms in Old Town Albuquerque. My little winery has been a dream of mine for, as long as I can remember, and I'm now in a position whereby, in order to make my winery go, we've grown and grown and grown, and to be honest, we've pursued two avenues that aren't as conducive to my happiness as an Old Town tasting room would be. Lots of off-site events. We're signed up for 71 off-site events this year. We will fulfill that. We will fulfill that, and it has taken me all over the state. I'm going to drive more than 35,000 miles this year selling my wine in a bunch of counties that aren't Bernalillo. We are also in the process of opening a tasting room, similar, open from noon to 5, noon to 6, whatever, in Red River, New Mexico, because we've been welcomed with open arms up there. And I feel as though the best place and the only place to be really successful in a traditional tasting room concept, because I have no desire to run a wine bar. I don't want to do a bunch of food. I don't want the liability of pouring a bunch of drinks. I don't want people at my establishment late. My dream is to make New Mexico wine more of a well-known thing throughout the entire country. My initial goal was to have a winery and have my own winery, and now my goal is to spread that throughout the country and let people know we make really amazing wine here. And I think the very best way we can do that is by putting a cluster of tasting rooms in Old Town eventually, such that people know that that's a wonderful tourist destination to go to, and it's a way to experience our local culture that goes back nearly 400 years of winemaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker, the gentleman with the sunglasses, are you going to speak? You are not going to speak. The gentleman down here, and then we'll go to...
Well, I have to apologize, I come unprepared, but I would like to kind of find out basically if it does open up a Pandora's box for package retail in the Old Town area, as historically has been an issue when Walgreens has tried to open packaged liquor at Rio Grande Central. The Neighborhood Association for Old Town has historically fought that, and we just finished another battle for a gas station to open a liquor retail between the Botanical Gardens and Old Town. So, again, I come unprepared, but I'd like to find out if that opens the door for all packaged retail in Old Town, which I think has been a no-no for that area.
Shanna, did you want to tackle that question?
Yeah, Madam President, I can answer that. Liquor retail is a separate use as defined by the Integrated Development Ordinance, and the changes proposed here today will not allow liquor retail to happen in any capacity, either conditionally or permissively in Old Town. What this does do is allow a tap room or tasting room for beer, wine, or spirits, and whatever off-premise sales the state license allows. We defer to the state license for that information, and they will allow sales of wine, liquor, or beer from those winemakers, beer crafters, or folks who distill spirits. So someone could not open up a little shop in Old Town to sell Smirnoff and Jack Daniels. They would have to only be selling the products that they create.
Thank you. So now the woman in the back. I hope that answered your question, sir.
Hi, I'm Marie Coleman. I own the Church Street Cafe in Old Town. So I'm welcoming this. I'm excited about it. I think it's something that Old Town needs, actually, to have something that would be different to offer our tourists and our guests. So, any questions? And I want to open a distillery, FYI.
Councilor Benton.
So, Marie, you are a member of the Merchants Association. Did I characterize it correctly that?
It's defunct.
Yeah.
It's really not
Yeah.
anything right now. The Property Owners Association is ongoing, and I have pitched it to the Property Owners Association, actually, and we've talked about it. And actually, the priest sits on that board, and he's not against it. So I think this is going to be good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Counselor Borrego.
Madam, before you leave, Madam, oh, okay. I just wanted to mention that I did receive a letter from a property owner against both of these amendments.
Against both of them?
Yes.
Really? Which one?
And, I mean, it's a public letter, but I'd rather not say, I mean, without fear of disclosing a name. And so I'm just a little confused, I guess, about, it seems that there's support, but then there seems to be some non-support. So I'm a little confused.
I wasn't aware of that. I know of one resident that was against it because she was concerned about parking and noise. But that's the only one I've actually heard of. I actually sent letters out to all of them, and I didn't hear any negative responses except from that one resident.
You're welcome to contact my office and take a look at it. But I just,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
I hear that there's support, but then I'm also hearing non-support. So
Yeah.
I'm a little
yeah.
confused about it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get a hold of you and look at it.
Thank you. So I think, Counselor Benton, we are back on your amendment number 1, labeled B.
Yes, it-
There was a motion and a second, correct,
Yes,
ladies?
yes.
Yes. All those in favor of amendment number 1, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion passes 8-1.
And
And then,
thank you, Madam
Number
President.
C.
I'll move floor amendment number 2, and Shannon can explain this, but basically this is incorporating language from the Integrated Development Ordinance and relating it to this sector plan, or, excuse me, historic protection overlay.
Madam President, Councilor Benton, yes, all this does is add to the existing findings in the bill some additional comprehensive plan policies. That's especially important as we're adding the provision for a tap room or tasting room. We want to be sure that the policy justification for that is robust and in the bill. So it just adds comprehensive plan policies. That's it.
so did you move your,
I move floor amendment number 2.
sir, there's motion, a second for floor amendment number 2. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion
No.
passes on an 8-1. We're back on the bill. Counselor Benton to close if there's no other questions from the rest of the council. Yes, Counselor
Thank you.
Harris, sorry. Counselor
Thank you,
Harris.
Madam.
Hang on one
I'm
second,
sorry.
and then you
Go
go.
ahead.
One of the things we're trying to do in downtown, this is not really downtown, but Old Town, is change the demographic of people who come around there. And my wife and I like to go to Casa Rondena as well as Gruet, and there's also Les Combs, used to be St. Clair's, is sort of in Old Town now, but that actually does have more of a full bar, kind of a. But, you know, tap rooms and especially wineries are a very different kind of demographic and very different kind of crowd. They're very mellow, and I think this would just sort of fit in very well and really be good for Old Town and draw the kind of people there that we'd like to see. So I think I'm fully in support. Thanks for sponsoring this, Councilor.
Counselor Benton.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Councilor Harris. I just want to thank everyone who's participated. That, you know, we're focused on the amendment with regard to the tasting rooms, but really this was a good effort, I think, by the Old Town merchants in general, even though they're not particularly well organized. We had kind of a very robust meeting, a very loud meeting at the Old Town substation to kick this off, and we realized, yeah, there's a pretty broad spectrum of opinions about things as simple as how big a sign should be, or should there be allowed a little non-flashing neon sign that says open, that people could just recognize that a business is open after dark. But I think we came up with a good solution to that type of meeting. We just had one of those, and after that we kind of did a virtual task force where everybody pitched in and gave their opinions about some of these details. And most of it was details. A lot of it, this came about because our own zoning inspectors were having somewhat difficulty interpreting some of the language in the original overlay. So I just want to thank everybody who participated in that, because it was a good level of participation, and I think we got to a point, and with former Planning Director Campbell, where we were able to come up with this fairly simple set of amendments, but urge your support.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. So there's a motion, a second for a due pass of O52 as amended. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion, that's an 8-1. Motion passes. Next, we have Councilor Winter, O71.
Thank you, Madam President. And O-71 is amending Section 4-4-1, ROA 1994, the lodger's tax ordinance, to include the definition of marketplace provider, eliminate an exemption, require marketplace providers to collect, remit occupancy taxes, and amending Section 481, ROA 1994, the hospitality fee ordinance, to include the definition of marketplace provider, eliminate an exemption, and require marketplace providers to collect and remit hospitality fees. I move a due pass. And so I think the administration, if they want to talk about this, because I'm not sure if I can.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Pena, Council President Pena, Councilor Winter. Basically, the state passed a law that dealt with collecting lodger's tax from short-term rentals, and this is the local ordinance to enable us to take part in that law.
Thank you. And before we go to close, we have one public speaker, Mr. Tad Naminsky. Tad Naminsky, going once, going twice. Councilor Winter to close.
I urge your support.
There's a motion, a second for O71. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilor Borrego, R173.
Amending the City of Albuquerque Component Capital Implementation Program to include new roadway facilities, project Paseo del Norte widening, universe to the western city limits. And you'll be seeing two amendments, actually, councilors, in your packet. And I'm deleting the word new in one of the amendments because it's not really new roadway. And so I would move R173.
There's a motion, a second for a due pass of R173.
Do you want me
Is
to
there
go to
anyone-
the amendments?
Hold on one second. Anyone signed up to speak? No? Okay, yes, Counselor.
Okay, so I guess floor amendment number 1 would be deleting on page 1, line 3, delete the word new because this is existing roadway. So I move R19173, floor amendment 1.
So there's a motion, a second for floor amendment number 1 to R173. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Counselor Borrego.
And this is floor amendment number 2. The attached document replaces attachment 2 of the resolution as hereby adopted as attachment 2 roadway table. And this amendment replaces the previous version of attachment 2 roadway table. The resolution to include a street section listed in the current roadway tables for the CCIP that was omitted in the original attachment 2 of this resolution. I move floor amendment number 2.
There's a motion, a second for floor amendment number 2 to R173. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're back on the bill, Counselor Borrego, unless, hold on, sorry, Counselor Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Councilor Borrego for her work on this issue. I know that we are now going to utilize impact fees that had not been used for this roadway because it's a big ticket item, and it's going to take a long time to get it done, but I appreciate your work and your diligence in trying to get the resources necessary to get this major project done for Albuquerque's west side.
Thank you.
Counselor Winter.
Thank you. Counselor, I just have a couple questions. So they're using impact fees. Has this money been taken away from any other projects, or what have they been designated for?
Counselor Winter and counselors, I think Tony Lloyd is, Tony, would you come up and explain that? Tony Lloyd from the Planning Department is here, our impact fee administrator.
Where would you like, right here, stand here?
The big one.
Madam President, Councilor Winter, you wanted to know if money was taken away from any particular project?
Yeah, Madam President, just where the money's coming from, how it's going to be funded, and if it did come from any other projects.
Well, if the project is put on the CCIP, then it's one of probably maybe 20. And like you said, money is cumulative. As development occurs, we collect the impact fee revenue.
Right.
And then it's in the roadway account, which can be used on any project listed in the CCIP under roadways because it's a single service area. So whether there's impact fee revenue specifically allocated to any project on the CCIP, I'm not real sure about that. I don't know if Tom knows, but DMD is the spender of the money. So my guess is it's just a pot right now, and it's not designated for any specific project. And also keep in mind that impact fees is just one funding source. So it would take many years if impact fees were going to be used to construct this single project.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
And Counselor Winter, just to add to that is we are interested in going back to the legislature to request additional construction funding. And trust me, no one's going to get away with not paying their fair share, as long as I'm around.
Okay, Counselor Borrego to close.
Urge your support.
There's a motion and a second for R-173 as amended. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Counselor Betten, R-175.
Thank you, Madam President. I move I do pass as amended on R-175. This is approving the East Downtown, Huning Highlands, South Martinez Town Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Plan.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for for a due pass of R-175 as amended. Anybody signed up to speak? Yes, we have Krista Lee. And Mr. Richard Martinez.
Good evening, Madam President and councilors. My name is Christy Howd, and I live at 617 Edith Northeast in South Martinez Town, which is in District 2. And I'm here to express personal support for this, the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Plan. And also, you've already voted to include South Martinez Town in the boundary. This Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Planning really allows a creative method for financing for projects of economic development to come in, to be funded in our neighborhood. We have several projects that have been searching for funding for decades. One of them particularly is the Albuquerque Housing Authority's 96 units of the three complexes at Arno, Fruit, and Roma. These 96 units were built 40 years ago. They comprise fully half of our neighborhood's residential units and are in dire need of renovation to provide a safe, pleasant living place for very fragile people. This MRA plan will provide more resources to Albuquerque Housing Authority to fund this renovation, which is looking at a $13 million price tag. Also, this area provides property owners outside of AHA such as the Jackson Wink MMA Mixed Martial Art Academy, with tools to expand their facilities as well. I want to thank you for this creative kind of thinking that will allow our neighborhood to source dollars to continue to showcase the eastern edge of downtown. Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'll wait till
I'll be brief. Madam President, councilors, my name's Richard Martinez. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Citizens Information Committee of Martineztown. On behalf of our spokesperson, Frank Martinez, and the Board of Directors of this Citizens Information Committee, and which is a duly recognized neighborhood association of South Martineztown, I'd like to really just say thank you very much, Councilor Benton and the other councilors for your support, including the South Martineztown in this Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Plan. Approving this MRA plan really offers the ability to help improve our neighborhood a whole lot, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to ask, I know Mr. Rao's not here, but somebody might be able to help me. I was just looking, we've added a number of MRA districts over the years. I think this is by my quick count, this is number 31 in the city that we have. But we've had discussions before about sort of, we're adding these without any funding to deliberately work on those plans. I only see, for example, one RFP currently out, and that's the downtown plan, which is great, and that's because it's, I think, municipal-owned property, which means we don't have to acquire any new. I think this is a great addition to this area, and this neighborhood is exactly what this project is designed for. But I also know that we have a number of other projects that are sort of, don't have a good amount of funding in the MRA to facilitate some of the plans that have been brought forward. I'm just curious, as we work through the budget, or Mr. Rao's not here anymore, but if we have an opportunity to sort of maybe get an update at some point on sort of where our MR funding is and what our strategy might be going forward as we add more of these districts, to how do we get adequate funding to incentivize the private side development of this with public dollars as well.
Council President Pena, Councilor Davis, I'm happy to defer to Shannon on this, but also, yes, we agree. We would like to see the MRA adequately funded. We'll make sure we review that during budget.
Great, thanks.
Shanna, did you want to add anything?
Madam Chair, or Madam President, no, I think that covers it. Thanks.
Okay. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate Councillor Davis's comments, because I think it's always a great addition to help any underserved area of the city. Unfortunately, years past, I think before I was even on council, we actually tried to extend the boundaries before, and with no success. We kind of got a lot of kickback for trying to do that. And thanks to this council, we recently extended the boundaries for Unser Crossing just recently. But yes, there's so many projects even within the MRA, and I know we just added some additional dollars to the MRA in this last budget cycle. But adding, including the Unser and now this, I mean, we really have to look at how we adequately fund that, because I think we're all looking at opportunities for funding, because this funding's so scarce, and then we're going to pots where it's not even really fully funded. So, Councilor Borrego.
I think it's very important that we understand that when we do MR projects, that we're not only expecting only city funding, that we create these public-private partnerships that then generate interest for, the MR fund to sort of stimulate how that fund would aggregate in the future. And I think it's really important that maybe we go back and look at some of our existing projects and see kind of where they are, and take kind of their temperature, so to speak, to see what funding has been generated, and if we are adequately collecting on that funding and that interest, and assuring that that fund is not going to be depleted in the future. And so when we're thinking about future projects, ensuring that we are, you know, creating these partnerships to generate new income.
Thank you, Counselor Borrego. Counselor Benton to close.
Thank you. I just want to thank a few people, some of whom are not here tonight, but first of all, the neighborhoods, East Downtown, Huning Highlands, and South Martineztown. Thank you, Mr. Martinez and Ms. Howe, for coming regularly down here to express your support, so thanks so much for that. And I am excited that we're expanding this boundary. This is really an expansion of the old Albuquerque High boundary, which is sort of the poster child of a successful MR project. And Councilor Borrego was involved in that at the time, and really transformational project for that area just by itself. But this will allow many of the other projects or properties along the corridor and north of the central corridor to succeed. I just want to thank Petra Morris. Petra's out of town. I want to thank our MR agency manager, Karen Iverson. She did a lot of the heavy lifting on this, and former Planning Department Director Campbell, but also the Planning Department in general for working on this as well. And in addition to Petra Morris, Shanna Schultz as well for being part of this, and our consultant who's in the audience. In case anybody has a question, a technical question, Michelle Negrete, who always does a good job on these projects. So I just want to thank everyone, and I think I moved to do pass as amended.
Yes. So there is a motion and a second for due pass of R-175 as amended. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Counselor Benton, R-177.
Thank you, Madam President. R-177 is approving and authorizing the filing of a grant application for clean diesel grant within the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and providing an appropriation to the Environmental Health Department fiscal year 2020. I move a due pass.
There's a motion and a second for a due pass of R-177. Anyone signed up to speak? Any discussion from the council? Counselor Benton to close.
Urge your support.
There's a motion and a second for a due pass of R-177. All those in favor say yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. There being no further business, this council meeting is adjourned.